では、始めましょう。
Now, let's get started.
This time, let's take a break and practice listening and pronunciation using Japanese names and place names. In fact, there are many types of Japanese names and place names, and many of them are quite similar. It's best to learn and pronounce names correctly as soon as possible. Being mispronounced repeatedly or in important situations can be quite unpleasant. Additionally, if you mispronounce a place name and ask for directions, you might end up wasting your travel time because people might say they don't know the place, even if it's nearby, or they might direct you to a completely different location. In fact, there are many types of Japanese names and place names, and many of them are quite similar. Pronunciation habits, once formed, can be difficult to correct. So, let's get accustomed to the correct rhythm little by little. For the first 7 questions, please listen to the audio first. Then, choose the option that correctly represents what was pronounced from the choices provided.
1問目、
ゆうきさん。ゆうきさん。
Whose name was called?
ゆうきさん。
The answer is
ゆうきさん。ゆうきさん。
For reference, let's also listen to the pronunciation of the other person's name.
ゆうきさん。ゆうきさん。
Next, let's compare the differences between the two.
ゆうきさん。ゆうきさん。ゆうきさん。ゆうきさん。ゆうきさん。ゆうきさん。
Let's try converting two names into kanji. These are just a few examples. Also, for girls, names can be in hiragana or katakana without using kanji intentionally. There are so many kanji names that they cannot all fit on the screen. Moreover, in Japanese, there is something called etaji, so when naming, there is a certain degree of flexibility in assigning kanji to match pronunciation. Therefore, even with just the examples listed here, there are often multiple instances where the same kanji are used. If you happen to receive a kanji name, it's important to also receive proper instruction on how to pronounce it. Japanese names are particularly diverse in this regard, so instead of focusing solely on learning kanji, it's crucial to first learn the correct pronunciation. This is especially important for everyone in cultures where kanji is used. For those in cultures that use the alphabet, it's also important not to learn names in romaji. Instead, focus on learning their pronunciation in hiragana.
2問目、
はたくん。はたくん。
Whose name was called?
はたくん。
The answer is
はたくん。はたくん。
For reference, let's also listen to the pronunciation of the other person's name.
はったくん。はったくん。
Next, let's compare the differences between the two.
はったくん。はたくん。はったくん。はたくん。はたくん。はたくん。
These two are surnames, and these also use various kanji. Furthermore, there are kanji that can be read in multiple ways. Please don't get discouraged. That's just how Japanese is. Just take this as a reference. Even among Japanese people, when something can be read in multiple ways, they don't hesitate to ask, how do you read this? One more thing. In manga and anime, unusual kanji that wouldn't be used for regular surnames are sometimes used. Like these. Please keep that in mind, just in case.
3問目、
塩田さん。塩田さん。
Whose name was called?
塩田さん。
The answer is
塩田さん。塩田さん。
For reference, let's also listen to the pronunciation of the other person's name.
正田さん。正田さん。
Next, let's compare the differences between the two.
塩田さん。正田さん。塩田さん。正田さん。 しおださん。しょださん。
These two are also surnames, and various kanji characters are used for these. These listed are the main ones.
4問目。
京子先生。京子先生。
Whose name was called?
京子先生。
The answer is
京子先生。京子先生。
For reference, let's also listen to the pronunciation of the other person's name.
清子先生。清子先生。
Next, let's compare the differences between the two.
清子先生。京子先生。清子先生。京子先生。清子先生。京子先生。
These two are given names. Like other names, various kanji characters are used for these. The ones listed here are the main ones. Regarding the pronunciation itself, some of you may have noticed, after examining the pronunciation in detail several times, that there are cases in Japanese where the vowels written in hiragana differ from those actually pronounced. One such case is vowel combination simplification. This often occurs with combinations like and, or, and, as seen in this example. Instead of pronouncing and together as, it is pronounced as along. Similarly, instead of pronouncing and as, it is pronounced as along. We'll take a closer look at vowel combination simplification in another session. Okay, let's move on to the next question.
5問目。
佐藤さん。佐藤さん。
Whose name was called?
佐藤さん。
The answer is
佐藤さん。佐藤さん。
For reference, let's also listen to the pronunciation of the other person's name.
佐藤さん。佐藤さん。
Next, let's compare the differences between the two.
佐藤さん。佐藤さん。佐藤さん。佐藤さん。佐藤さん。佐藤さん。
These two are one surname and one given name.
佐藤、
Is the most common surname in Japan as of 2023. However,
佐藤、
can be a tricky name for foreigners to pronounce correctly, often due to errors in intonation and forgetting the final long vowel sound. The same thing happens with the surname.
伊藤、伊藤、
Is also a common surname among Japanese people, currently ranked 5th as of 2023. Like,
佐藤、
errors in intonation and the omission of the long vowel sound can result in a pronunciation that sounds like a name commonly found among elderly women.
伊藤さん。伊藤さん。伊藤さん。伊藤さん。
It's unlikely there will be two people with that name present, but those with those surnames or names would likely appreciate it if you pronounce them correctly. Good luck.
6問目。
The next question involves names of foreign origin. In reality, they are the same name, but one person has converted it from alphabet to Romaji and then to katakana, using it as their name. The other person has converted it to katakana based on a sound closer to the actual pronunciation, using it as their name. Different katakana can lead to different Japanese pronunciations. Let's take a look.
アナさん。アナさん。
Whose name was called?
アナさん。
The answer is
アナさん。アナさん。
For reference, let's also listen to the pronunciation of the other person's name.
アンナさん。アンナさん。
Next, let's compare the differences between the two.
アンナさん。アナさん。 アンナさん、アナさん、あ、ん、な、さ、ん。あ、な、さ、ん。
The name we've discussed this time is Anna. In Japanese literature, it's generally written as
アンナ、
but in the Japanese version of Disney's movie Frozen, it's spelled as.
アナ。
Moreover, for names that are already well known, regardless of whether the sounds are similar, some names have already been standardized.
アンナ、
Is one such example. Ultimately, the choice depends on personal preference. However, I personally recommend adjusting based on pronunciation, as it more closely resembles the actual sound. Also, it's generally not advisable to show the spelling of your name to Japanese people who are not familiar with foreign languages and ask them to convert it into katakana. This is because many of them may not know how to pronounce your name in your native language. For example, there are not many people who can convert the spelling of
Anya,
or
Katya,
into katakana that closely matches the real pronunciation. Most of the time, it ends up like this.
あんじゃ、かとじゃ、
Incidentally, here are the versions in katakana that are fairly close to the original pronunciation.
あにや、あにゃ、あにゃ、かてや。
I once met someone who said they used Google Translate to convert their name, but while it can provide some results, the accuracy still leaves much to be desired.
7問目。
お山様。お山様。
Whose name was called?
お山様。
The answer is
お山様。お山様。
For reference, let's also listen to the pronunciation of the other person's name.
大山様。大山様。
Next, let's compare the differences between the two.
お山様。大山様。お山様。大山様。おやまさま。おやまさま。
These two are surnames, and these also use various kanji. In Japan, when addressing customers by their names, they usually add sama at the end. When addressing customers whose names they don't know, they use
お客様。
and also append sama. Sama is also used when sending mail directly to an individual. You write the recipient's postal code and address, then their name followed by sama. Remember this for future reference. From here, the format of the questions will change slightly. Look at the characters displayed on the screen and try to pronounce them. Then, choose the audio that most closely matches your pronunciation.
8問目。
How do you pronounce the name of this station? Then, which audio is closest to your pronunciation? A,
青み、
B,
青梅、
C,
青み、
A,
青み、
B,
青梅、
C.
青み。
The correct pronunciation is
青梅、青梅。
For those who chose the other options, I've transcribed your pronunciation into hiragana. You can see the difference, right? This is how your pronunciation sounds to us Japanese speakers. By the way, these three are actual place names. Two of them are place names in Tokyo. Ideally, you don't want to get them wrong. Okay, let's confirm the differences once again.
青み、青梅、青み、青み、青梅、青み。
9問目。
How do you pronounce the name of this bus station? Then, which audio is closest to your pronunciation? A,
宝蔵寺、
B,
補助寺、
C,
北条寺、
A,
宝蔵寺、
B,
補助寺、
C.
北条寺。
The correct pronunciation is
宝蔵寺宝蔵寺
For those who chose the other options, I've transcribed your pronunciation into hiragana. You can see the difference, right? This is how your pronunciation sounds to us Japanese speakers. A and C are occasionally seen in places like temples or geographical names, while B is a noun phrase. Okay, let's confirm the differences once again.
宝蔵寺宝蔵寺宝蔵寺宝蔵寺宝蔵寺宝蔵寺
10問目。
How do you pronounce this place name? Then, which audio is closest to your pronunciation? A,
京都、
B,
清都、
C,
京都、
D,
京都、
A,
清都、
B,
清都、
C,
京都、
D.
京都。
The correct pronunciation is
京都、京都。
For those who chose the other options, I've transcribed your pronunciation into hiragana. You can see the difference, right? This is how your pronunciation sounds to us Japanese speakers. In this question, I used
京都、
as the subject. Other names besides
京都
also exist as both place names and surnames. There are so many types of kanji for them, so I'll provide an example on the roadmap shown on the screen. Few foreign tourists can pronounce
京都、
correctly, and since
京都、
is a famous tourist city, it's not too difficult for us to understand what they mean from the context when tourists try to say.
京都。
However, if you can pronounce it correctly, it makes us very happy, especially for the people of
京都、
who are known to be a bit particular. Okay, let's confirm the differences once again.
清都、清都、京都、京都、清都、清都、京都、京都。今日はこれで終わりです。今回は少し気分転換を兼ねた出題傾向にしましたが、いかがでしたか？楽しんでいただければ幸いです。次回からはまた元の出題形式に戻ります。楽しみにしていてくださいね。お疲れ様でした。
Today's exercise concludes here. This time, I aim for a slightly different approach to offer a refreshing change of pace. How did you find it? I hope you enjoyed it. Next time, we'll return to our usual format. Please look forward to it. Thank you for your hard work today. Don't forget to hit the like button, share, and subscribe to the channel. See you again on this channel.